Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Welcome back to Real Talk Bougie. So if you missed this was on WDAS in Philadelphia. This lady here, her name is Frankie Darcell. She is a radio show hostess in the Philadelphia area, very well known. And this gentleman sitting next to her is Mr. Shaka Johnson, defense attorney. He happens to be the defense attorney for Mr. Keon King, who is standing accused in the murder of Kada Scott. Guys, take a listen and we will talk about it towards the end. Make sure to comment. If you hadn't seen this interview, let me know down below. Again, this is Keon's lawyer, Mr. Shaka Johnson.
Welcome to my conversation online with attorney Shaka Johnson, who has been on the afternoon traffic jam and headlines for a number of topics throughout the last couple of years, and wanted to come and have a conversation. He is representing Keon King in the death of Kada Scott. You called, wanted to have a conversation about representation. First, I want to start with you and talking about why you decided to come in and have this conversation here, because there's been some backlash, quite frankly, about you making the decision, particularly as a black man,
Yes,
to represent Keon King in this very high-profile case. There are people who are hurt. Mm-hmm. People clearly are many horrified at what has been alleged. That would be the proper term.
yes.
Of what has been alleged by your client. And your office and you as an individual have received some backlash on that. Let's start first with the why. Why are you here?
Frankie, quite frankly, I'm somewhat confused as to what I'm going to call, there's a little bit of fake outrage and hypocrisy that seems to be taking place when people say a black man representing Keon King in this particular circumstance. In this city, any attorney who's representing defendants is, by statistical probability, more likely to be representing a black person who's accused of doing a crime to a black person, whether it be male or female. Okay, so this is something that happens every day. Every day, every week, we are getting cases where there's a black man accused of stabbing a black woman. There's a black woman accused of shooting another black woman. The list goes on and on. So somehow, this particular case seemed to be the line for some people. And where you draw your line, I don't draw mine. The social media and the internet doesn't run me, right? I don't operate on that frequency. And so when you have people who say, well, why would you take that case? You're a black man.
Yeah.
I think it's spoken with a little bit of ignorance, because I am, every attorney, but me, talking about me for this moment, I am challenged with that every time the phone rings, because it is usually a black person charged with doing some foul or some harm to another black person. I get this daily. So what am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to do?
So your why is what?
So, well, my why is because I'm an attorney and I'm a professional. I'm an absolute professional. I'm the consummate professional. I have an oath to protect, and I represented this young man. I engaged with the family before we knew what this actually was. I got a chance to meet his mom, meet his dad, meet his brother, and I'm telling you, they are salt of the earth people. The kind of people.
But they are.
Yes.
And I'm taking nothing away from that.
Sure.
What your client has been alleged of.
So what I'm saying is, having met them long before I knew what Keon was charged with.
And okay.
You know what I'm saying? So having met them, and then maybe a week and a half later, being told by Mr. Krasner what he was being charged with.
So the district attorney knew that you were representing.
Yes.
Mr. King.
I'm the one who turned him in. He called my phone.
So you were representing him on another case? What? Can you just clear that up? Be specific.
Absolutely. There was a warrant served in the uptown part of the city at a property that they no longer live in. The parents were contacted by neighbors we have no idea why the police are kicking in our door at our old spot. But we're going to get an attorney to see if we can find out. Why are they, they didn't say who they were looking for or why, but can you help us find out? I did some searching, did some looking, and his father and I said, maybe Keon missed court on his DUI. Maybe he missed court. I'll check and see if it's a bench warrant regarding the DUI. That was the whole engagement. That was the engagement. Once I started to do some checking, I got a phone call from the district attorney's office that said, no, he's wanted for something much more devastating, much more grave than a bench warrant for a DUI. He's wanted for in connection with this particular situation. Would you, Shaka, facilitate him being surrendered, or do we have to find him? Now, here's where having an attorney with a certain amount of cachet comes into play. You understand? Keon's in custody because he listened to his attorney. He was out of custody walking around. I didn't counsel that young man to take flight. I didn't tell his people to tuck him away. I didn't tell him to go on the run. We have to do this in decency and in order. And collectively, we prayed on that, me and his family and his aunts and everybody came in the office, and then we surrendered him to authorities. Knowing that at the time, nobody had been discovered, but she was in fact missing, and that he was going to be charged in connection with her disappearance. All right. And so that's how it began. I spoke to Mr. Krasner 4 or 5, maybe 6 times over the course of a few days, trying to do this in decency and in order and not through the media.
So the initial charges, and correct me where there may be some missteps. The initial charges was kidnapping.
That's correct.
Kada Scott was missing. And then the district attorney announced that there was a previous case.
Yeah.
And since then, the district attorney's office has announced that those charges would be included in this particular case, involving Kada Scott, where in the initial case, the young lady did not show up in court.
Correct.
Now, that case, in addition to this case, and we know through the medical examiner's office, I just want to say for the sake of fact, we know what the cause of death is, which is a gunshot to the head. But now the initial case from earlier in the year is included in this case. Is it proper as an attorney that I ask you the question about the initial case being included now in this particular case?
Well, yeah, sure it is.
And that now the district attorney are using these charges against your client as well. I'm just fact finding.
Yes, no.
Understanding so that we can get from questions that I've had and others have had in terms of understanding what happened in that initial case and why your client, and I don't know if you know the answer to that, was not prosecuted because the charges were dropped in the first case at the beginning of the year.
Yeah, no, I have all those answers.
Oh, okay.
All right, so we'll take them in order. So a person gets arrested, they come to court, and the witness / complainant also gets a subpoena to come to court. If you don't come, the court will give you a number of times not to appear, and then they will dispatch with the case. They'll throw the case out, discharge the case, because they can't keep the system clogged with people who apparently don't want to be involved, all right, for one reason or another. I find it interesting, though, that person who did not come to court and was the cause of the case being dismissed has now taken to social media and has a lot to say and is sharing information on social media about the case they did not come to court for.
So I just want to, for fact's sake, so the person who was involved in the initial case, are you saying the person involved in the case earlier in the year is on social media?
Yes, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
Do you know whether or not, now that they're using the initial charges from the beginning of the year in this case, do you know whether or not that person is now testifying in the upcoming case, which is forthcoming, where there's going to be a hearing on November 10th? And what social media are you talking about?
Okay, so those
or are you
cases,
referencing? Because if it's on social media, it's out there.
Those two cases are separate, right?
Okay.
The previous case that was discharged and the case that he's currently facing murder charges for are separate.
Okay.
there are legal motions that have to be filed by the side who wants to put these together to bring in any sort of prior bad acts. Okay? That hasn't been done, but it's all in the court of public opinion now.
Okay.
It's been done through social media. It's been done through calling press conferences. It's been done through saying incendiary sort of statements to the public, but it hasn't been done where it's supposed to happen, which is in court.
Specifically, you're saying the individual involved in the initial case has posted some things publicly.
That's what I'm saying.
On social media.
Yes. But that is its own case.
That's its own case. All right.
And to the extent it is coming up now, and to your question, will it be used in this particular murder case? There are motions that have to be filed.
Okay.
But they have all but put those cases together in the court of public opinion.
Okay. All right. Let me go back to...
Which is not fair, by the way. And that is why you have a defense attorney. That is not fair for KEON. It's not fair for any person.
Let's get back to you representing KEON and your why.
Yes.
And what the outcry has been that a black man representing your client in a case involving which is a beautiful young life, your client has alleged to be the person responsible for her death. When you made this decision, based on what? And that's what I want my audience. That's what you wanted when we wanted to address.
Yes. I said this to you before. I'll say it again. I listen for God's voice when I am taking a case. That is an assignment. I've been given a certain set of skills. And if I'm going to use them for a person, I want to make sure I'm using them to the benefit and much to the delight of my Creator. That's what I want to do. Okay. I feel like I've heard his voice, and I'm good with taking this particular case. That doesn't mean that he's going to skip out the door like nothing ever happened and this family won't see justice. That won't mean he'll be convicted. What it means is, when I take this case, what it means is I'm going to use the skills that I have and what's at my disposal to keep the prosecution on point, to keep them from playing foul. And this is any prosecution. It didn't matter. To keep them from playing out of bounds, to keep them. You heard how many times they stood at a podium and said, "We don't want to mess this up. They kept saying that was the theme. We don't want to mess this up."
Do you think that some of the concern of the district attorney's office, attorneys on both sides, the prosecution side and on the district attorney side, you guys, you go to the same parties, you're in the courtroom, you cover cases together. They know you.
They do.
You know them.
I do.
What do you think, or are there concerns there at all?
That they would have?
Well, let's start there, that they would have.
Yeah, and they should. Yeah. I do think they're concerned. I think the public is also concerned, right? Because it's the public sort of on social media, and I think they've gotten accustomed to, when I represent people, there being a certain outcome.
Yeah.
Okay? But the outcome is the byproduct of me protecting the process. And if that means you have to do a better prosecution, then I'm doing my job. You understand?
Can we talk more about that? And I just want to be clear with your why, and you talked about praying and the like, but speak to the person who is watching. When, as a defense attorney, you decide that you're going to take a case in a very sensitive case, emotional case, and one with this kind of media coverage. If it would have been easier to say, no, I'm not going to take the case, or do you think you should have not taken the case, or why you took the case?
No, I don't think I shouldn't have taken it. I am, Frankie, I don't know any other way to say it. I'm a professional, and I am tasked daily, maybe even several times a day, with people who are charged with certain offenses that in my personal life disgust me. But I am a professional. And I took an oath to preserve and protect the same Constitution that protects me and you and them. And if you get into this whole, well, I don't like what you're being charged with. Not that I take every case, let me be clear. But that's the ones I don't hear the voice. You understand? But if you get into, well, I don't like what you've been charged with, then what crimes do I like? I don't like any crime. What crimes do I like? Right? So at some point, you have to just be the professional. And it's not about who the victim is. Whether it's an elderly woman, whether it's a child, whether it's a female, or a black boy, could be my black son or my brother. It can't be about who the victim is. It is about protecting the sanctity of the institution. That's what it is.
Most, and it should be the question, most of the concern that you've gotten about taking this case, has it primarily been from the African American community?
100%. At least that I.
And why do you think so?
I think it's because their version of justice on social media. Let me say it differently. I think they're being gaslit to some extent. I think there's some.
And what do you mean by gaslighting?
There's some gaslighting going on. Let me give you an example. People who never met Miss Scott or the Scott family are posting things with sort of inflammatory remarks and my picture and all this other kind of stuff for clicks and likes and shares, and they are monetizing on this tragedy. You understand? That's how the internet works. That's how Instagram and TikTok and Facebook works. That's how it works. People set up an account, they monetize their account. Everyone can do it. A kid can do it. Everyone does it. And then based on the number of clicks and likes and shares and reposts and retweets you get money deposited into your account. They don't really care about this beautiful young lady, right? And that's why I called it initially like a fake outrage, because they're doing this across all platforms. And next week, when something heinous happens to someone else, they'll do the same thing with that person.
Have you considered walking away from the case?
No, I never considered it 1 second.
What is there any misinformation that's out there that you would like to address now?
I mean, I think it's so much. I don't even know if we have time. It's so much. But a lot of it's related to the case, which I will not speak on because that would be reckless. But I think the people who know me, and there are quite a few who know me, the real me, they understand that I do this full time, right? Like I'm married to this and it's my mistress. You understand? This law, it's both of those for me, okay? And so that means there are going to be some people that you represent that you can see yourself in, you like them, and there are some other people you don't see yourself in. You may be sitting in a room with evil, but you got a job to do. And that's called being a professional. I could walk away from this particular case, but I think that I don't operate on the bandwidth, on the frequency of social media. I don't operate on that frequency. So I don't respond to that.
Do you think you owe, or is there an opportunity on your part for better understanding that you could share with our audience now in terms of moving forward? Because this is going to be what might be a long process before or if it gets to a trial. Speak to that person now who may have had some honest concern to say Shaka Johnson, who they know, who they've seen, who they've cheered for, has taken on this particular case. What would you say to that person?
I would say, please don't be a hypocrite. Today, it is KEON King. And if we start to erode the rights of Mr. King, tomorrow it is you. That is what is going to happen. If we create this slippery slope where we start prematurely vilifying people that we just don't like and attorneys coming off cases because it happens to be unpopular, I don't know where that ends. It doesn't end anywhere. And it certainly doesn't end well for people who are historically the most disenfranchised in the criminal justice system. I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it. This case has nothing to do with my personal beliefs, my personal ethics, and whether I am somehow sort of spiritually aligned with this young man. This has to do with the way in which I see the law and how I know how to hold the prosecution accountable and make sure that they dot all I's and cross all T's, which is what you want in a criminal case.
All right. If the question is appropriate, because we're talking about the victim, and I acknowledge and speak her name, Kada Scott, who you are representing, the person accused in her death, a beautiful, young, bright young lady. If there were something, or if that would be appropriate, that you could say to her family, would it be appropriate to ask you that question?
Sure.
Knowing that what your client has been accused of, but that there is a young lady whose life has been ended. What could you, or would you, or can you say something to the family?
Okay, guys, there you have it. Shaka Johnson's interview with Frankie Darcell on WDAS. Tell me what you think. We talked about it in an earlier live. Go check it out. If you are new here, make sure to subscribe to this channel for more. This was the uninterrupted version. If you hadn't already seen it, make sure to comment down below, subscribe to the channel, set your notifications, and I will see you next time. Tell me why Mr. Shaka Johnson is so mad, y'all.